What was the most important thing you broke, and what was the aftermath? I was 12, asked to carry a ceramic urn for my aunt while we were loading up the car for a trip. I dropped it and it turned out they were the ashes of her grandfather that just passed. We were driving to some lake to spread his ashes. I felt bad, but she was devastated. Not really a dignified thing having your ashes cleaned up by a Swiffer wet jet. Did you ever manage to earn your aunt's forgiveness? Dude, aren't ashes usually put into plastic bags before put into urns? Why in the heck was her grandpa freeballing his urn? Our brand new sentence. That is the strangest thing I have heard for a while. I was trying to align a laser in my lab the first month of my PhD program this year. It had to enter the Galvo beam steering device at a very precise angle. I was putting the last bolt in the mounting bracket and my hands were sweaty and the bolt just shot out of my hand. If I tried to do this, it could have never happened. But that goddamn thing made a perfect football spiral right through the aperture hole into the sealed $25,000 optical device. It is completely sealed except this hole. I heard the plink-plink sound as it managed to hit both mirrors inside as well as the focusing optics. I started bawling, sure that I was about to get booted from the lab. This device was special ordered from Germany and it would be months and dollar to replace. I channeled Carmen Sandiego and somehow managed to find the cell phone number of the single engineer based in the USA and surprised him while he was at a gas station. The poor dude was so confused that a 22 years old sobbing girl got his number. That lovely human told me how to access the Secret Service panel. So it wasn't sealed, and I was able to get the bolt out. But I had to void the warranty to do so. It ended up still functioning. But for years whenever we got a new student they'd ask how the hell it seemed like there were scratches on the mirrors inside. Distorts the beam in some locations. And I would pretend I had no idea. I never adjusted that bracket again. I always made someone else do it. I'd seriously start to sweat just thinking about it. I broke a $2 million piece of equipment at work. Really wasn't any aftermath. People came and fixed it and someone else broke it a few months later. It's always getting broke. Also, I work for a multi-billion-dollar company, so $2 million is nothing for the monsieur. Well, the worst thing I ever did was accidentally push the wrong button and delayed the processing of about $2 million worth of computer chips by a week and waste about a dozen people's time trying to fix my mistake. My manager basically said, "Okay, so it was a mistake. Please don't do it again." Okay, good, see you later. Quote, a new person might make the same $1 million mistake. You will never ever again in your life make that same mistake. Hopefully. Broke is a strong word, but I accidentally turned off a server I was working on once. I had a complete mind fart while being on a remote session on this server. My main machine needed turning off for some reason, and I forgot I was still in this remote session to a server. Hit start greater than shut down and gut, are you sure? Please type something in this box to confirm what, etc. So I just mashed the keyboard thinking, of course I want to turn it off. It went off, but another screen appeared behind that. Shit, I just turned off a server that hundreds of other analysts use for work. Suddenly cries of, "Hey server 001 has stopped working." Yeah, me too. And me. Then my desk phone rang. It's the data center. Did you just turn off server 001? Shit. No, then why does it says shut down by Don Kiddick? Reason given. AOS BFCO DUF SUD BFSDF SDBJF. Quote. I managed to get away with it by saying the screen froze, so I mashed a keyboard. And then it turned off. Not sure if management ever found out, but I was never told off by the monsieur IT guy here. They knew. They also know that you probably will be more careful in the future. Finally, they know the embarrassment will serve as a warning to the other users of the machine. I broke my dad's original Xbox because I would spam the on-off button because I like the light. I'm just going to buy you a lighter for your birthday. I wrecked my brand new truck right before my 16th birthday, while eating chicken nuggets, into a mailbox, made of brick. Luckily the neighbors didn't want to file a police report because I didn't have an adult with me. I had to wake up at 6 a.m. the next morning and pick up all of the pieces of brick that literally exploded throughout the yard. Also, my dad had to pay for the mailbox to be rebuilt. Thankfully my truck wasn't totaled, although it was very close. The stain where I dropped my barbecue sauce is still on the floor mat. As a European, it's mind-blowing to me that Americans can't drink until 21, but can drive a truck at 15. Somebody messed with the wiring around my desk. I had everything labeled, making it clear where everything was supposed to plug in. And some weekend crew decided to do some fiddling around in my desk's vicinity and ended up unplugging everything, then plugging it all back in. When I came back into work, I realized my net wasn't working properly. Found my clearly labeled Ethernet wall corporate network cable jutting out. So without thinking much of it, I plug it back into my clearly labeled corporate network wall outlet. Immediately, the network goes down, not just in the office. Globally, frantic phone calls right and left. Productivity screeches to a halt. And 2 hours later I find myself on the receiving end of multiple pissed-off glances from people. Employees at my rank do not want being summoned into a private meeting with. Apparently, by plugging my network back in, I created a bandwidth loop. I broke the company. Millions in productivity was lost and it was all my fault. Or, that's what they thought. I had no idea anybody had come in over the previous weekend and upended my whole clearly labeled assembly of cables and ports, and plugged everything back in all wrong. My boss came rushing to my aid, actually standing up to these people that employees of his rank do not want to be in a private meeting with. He actually complimented me for taking the extra time to label my wires and ports, something nobody else was doing, because everybody just assumed our network had protections against bandwidth loops, and protections against weekend knuckleheads recklessly rearranging wires of others' desks. Eventually, after a very unpleasant meeting, I was allowed back to work and assured to never again attempt handling wires without IT supervision. Obviously, not something I could effectively uphold unless IT wanted to move their office next to my desk. Since my job required lots of cable swapping, disconnecting, but promises were made, they seemed happy enough to leave without burning our floor down. And I didn't get fired. But the only reason I didn't get fired, despite breaking a multi-billion-dollar company for an afternoon, was those 10 cents of labels I'd scotch-taped to those wires, proving they were moved around by idiots. If I didn't spend those 10 minutes making and taping those labels, something literally nobody else on the floor did, my life would have taken an absolutely dismal downturn. What serious company does not have any protection against network loops? What the fuck? If this should be blamed on someone, it's on the IT. Also, the entire organization being on the same flat network, lol. An entire global organization. WTF. That's like a mistake you would have known was a mistake the second you even considered it. My car going to NYC for New Year's Eve blew the head gasket right when I got to the toll booth at the bridge for Queens. Had to abandon the car at my friend's house. Got $300 for it and had to take a bus back to Massachusetts. Also had to go to 6 months without a car. My dad's laptop after I smashed the screen when I was very young. I still regret it to this day, and yet he was never vocally angry about it. The silent anger is worse as a kid. It makes you remember your wrongdoing forever. I broke my dad's fake leg once. For the aftermath, he couldn't really catch me, for a while. I got a good smack from his crutch, lol. I broke a $3,000 diamond at work once. It was a wedding ring. I was tightening a little princess cut. the square one with the sharp points. And all of a sudden it turned into a broken, milky, frosted mess. Lol. You would be surprised on how easy it is to break a diamond. Especially when they have super sharp points. You can't scratch them, but they will break. Aftermath was, hey, that happens, and some more training. I broke several more stones after that, but all small and easy and cheap to replace. Best job I've ever had. My wallet. I gave this 45-second-old post gold because I want to see it get popular. Real answer. I did technically break it, but my dad had an old pocket watch. When I asked him if I can see it, he said yes and took it down, only for it to break. I didn't even know how it broke. It just did. Edit. He just corrected me. He says it was broken before and very fragile. How did this get gold before any answers? Me. What did it cost? Gold. Well shit, you're not wrong. My mom told me to get a cake out of the oven for her while she stepped out of the store. I was in the middle of a COD match when it was time to take it out, so I ran. Took it out of the oven and put it on the glass table we had in our kitchen. And ran back to my game. Fast forward, my mom comes home and is screaming at me for what I think is her not believing I took the cake out of the oven. But when I go downstairs to tell her I did take it out of the oven, the table was shattered to pieces on the floor. Did you put a hot metal object straight on the glass surface? That appears to be the implication, yes. You're onto something, detective. We were driving in the late 90s in Upper Wisconsin. No GPS. I was a preteen and was allowed to sit in the front seat because my two younger siblings were being little shits. So there I was with the only map of Wisconsin in the front seat, with the window down. Now you might think the map got ripped out of the window by the wind. Nope. See, I decided to put the map outside the window like a flag and watch it flap in the wind. The wind was going roughly 60 miles per hour. My dad starts yelling to put the damn map inside the car. He begins to close the window to force me to pull my arm in. I pull my hand in as fast as I can. The map rips in half. And of course I was left holding the bottom half of Wisconsin. All I could do was just look at him pie-eyed. Like I never could have imagined that could happen. We were in the backwoods of Wisconsin. And for those that don't know, many of those areas are Native American lands. We got really lucky and some random Paw Patrol guy type came by and asked us what we were doing. My dad made me explain and show the torn map. He laughed and called me an idiot. Good news was he had a map in his car, outlined the path out, and sent us on our way. I still cannot believe that I was allowed to hold that new map and help get us out of there. As a non-American, what is the problem of being in Native American lands besides just being lost? It's sovereign land. They have their own rules and enforcement and/or lack thereof. It's something to be cognizant of today, but generally not a huge concern unless you're putting yourself in a situation. But maybe back then it was a bigger issue. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.